Hey everybody, it's Dave Watson from Tribu here. Again, joined on this session with James Davis from C-Level Ops, and I'm head of partner success here at Tribu. I'm basically customer facing, making sure that everybody is using the product properly, etc., etc. And as I said, I've been joined today by James from C-Level Ops, who we are going to have a yarn about triage, everything triage inside service desk and where it goes and how it works and all that sort of cool stuff. How you getting on, James?
Good. I'm excited to do this session. Triage is a very underutilized tool for our service delivery processes. So before we
Absolutely.
dive into it, for the people who haven't had the displeasure of coming across me before, James, I'm managing director of APAC for C-level operations, and we work with MSPs and TSPs to help coach through their leaders to improving their processes and procedures and mature their business. So I get the privilege of working with a lot of service leaders, MSP owners, lots of different people inside MSPs. So I get to see a lot of different sizes. So I get to see that journey that people go through from being a small MSP right up to large and everything in between. So this is really, really something that what I'm finding, triage just isn't a very well utilized
Hmm.
tool in that service delivery hardware chest. Um, so this is going to be a good topic today, Dave.
Yeah, it's interesting because the way I see it, I completely agree with you. It's completely underutilized, but actually, if you utilize it in the right way, so much success happens off the back of it. So much success off the back of it. And I think there's a couple of differences, a couple of things that we have to throw out there to begin with, specifically around the sort of triage that we're doing, and how you do things, I suppose, inside that triage and inside the triage category. It's not all about just grabbing information and making sure the information is right in the ticket, right? There's a bit more to it than that.
it, it, it is very important to define what we're doing. We like everything that we do in MSPs. We take a concept and we make it our own without truly
Mm-hmm.
understanding what it means. So
Exactly.
triage on its own, where I usually start with when we coach people, is let's focus on the ticket administration side because that's what we're usually really bad in MSPs,
Mm-hmm.
and there's many reasons why. But the most important one that affects most people's efficiencies, we just have techs on the phone answering those. We're not actually doing any ticket administration. We jump straight into, well, let's fix the problem.
Yep.
Um, and from there, that's completely contrary to what you're talking about of setting the ticket up for success.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the reason for that, a lot of the time, is the technical solution isn't the main thing that we're actually solving.
No.
And I don't know about you, you've been in the industry for quite a while. I'm sure you see the same thing. You've dealt with that. Whenever you tell people that are dealing with these issues, what's the normal reaction that you get when you say it like that?
Yeah, it varies. Some people go, yeah, yeah, I know, I understand what you're saying. We don't have the time. Is the big one. Or no, we don't need that. We're just fixing it. And then when you turn around and say, okay, well, where does your money come from? Oh, my money comes from tickets. Okay, so you're invoicing out from your tickets. How do you know you're getting the right information in there so your text can put the right amount of time and you're not losing billing, or you're not overbilling, so the customer then comes back to you and says, why are you charging me 2 hours for a job that should have taken me an hour to do? And it all stems from being able to come in and go, here's this new ticket, how does it want to go? There's a couple of things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, I suppose, inside service delivery. Is when we look at the tickets, we tend to go and work in a linear fashion as a tech, right? So we'll have a list of tickets. and we'll work down the tickets. We'll work top to bottom, or we might work on priority, or we might work on queue, whatever it is, it's still linear. That's not necessarily the best way to work, because if you think about it, the server down is not going to be the same priority as somebody's printer, right? There's straight away, there would be a massive benefit from you from looking at a triage point of view and going, well, actually, I couldn't give a toss about the printer at the minute because I've got a file server that's causing partners problems. And it's how do you then categorize things? How do you then prioritize them? And then how do you send them to the right person? How do you get it to the right engineer? And yeah, a lot of people are, when you start talking about it like that, they get the big picture. That's the understanding that comes out of it. And it's being able to put that time in to actually start that conversation, I suppose, and actually get that moving forward.
And picking on the ticket categorization part, where by not doing the ticket administration, that causes a lot of problems, because when we are diving in and we're trying to do things on the phone, like you said, those people go, oh, we just aim to get it fixed and get it done. And what I come across, this is my privilege of being able to see so many MSPs all day, every year. When I ask them what their unique distinguishing features are from their competition, everyone proudly says, it's how fast we respond on the phone. We fix the issues fast on the phone. Now, if everyone's telling me that, is that really a distinguishing feature?
Yeah.
Let alone, is it actually reality? From my experience, just fixing something on the phone, it solves and provides good client service for specific type issues. You're talking about the prioritization there.
Yeah.
There are things that we need to respond to faster and get someone working on faster, and they can be two different kinds of things. They can be like what you're talking about with the file server. Yeah, everyone knows what a priority one is. You can go to any MSP, and generally they're good at jumping onto a priority one straight away. So it's never an issue of, oh, we'll miss the really urgent things, because everyone does that. That's what we're doing. We're chasing bushfires a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But it's what we call the quick fix, that are the inconvenient ones that should be like a one-touch, really quick thing that we can deal with as well. But when we're not distinguishing that out properly, and we're just treating everything as an urgent, we're not really distinguishing.
Yeah.
What we do is we miss that ticket categorization, and that's really important with distinguishing between an incident of something that's broken compared to, well, actually they're requesting something new. And because you've got that tech on the phone and that company culture of, oh, you help them straight away, how badly are we doing with change management? We jump in straight away and go, oh, we'll just fix this up, because we're not thinking about, well, actually, who's this change going to impact? What do we need to do right? We're going straight to incident resolution mode and that transactional thinking. So what you're exactly saying with the profitability and stuff, even if we're recording it properly, like, we cause a lot of inefficiencies by skipping a lot of these steps really quickly.
A lot of the time I've seen a lot of issues, a lot of rework, more to want of a better phrase, right? It's because we need to get this fixed straight away. Well, actually, who does it impact? What's, I've got 3 questions that I ask, and I've put this so everybody can go onto our website, tribu.ai, and have a look at the write-up on, I actually called it something like, what's the perfect ticket lifecycle? And then I put a TLDR of there isn't one, and then go into a big, you know what I mean? But yeah, feel free to have a look. Anybody out there, have a look, come on to tribu.ai. But I've got 3 questions that I ask via the triage process. Who's affected? What's affected? And you know the biggest one that people forget to ask is it costing the customer money? Yeah, those 3 questions there, all your triage done. No questions asked. Weight them as well. So, who's affected? If it's just one person, give it 1 point. If it's more than one, less than 10, do you know what I mean? 5 points. And then if it's somebody above 10, then it's 10 points. Weight all those 3 answers, add them up. There's your high priority, your normal priority, your critical priority, done and dusted. Yeah, nice and simple. But again, it's just being able to do that as the ticket comes in.
It's the messaging, isn't it? Like what
Yeah.
you've just said. Like a lot of this is really easy to create systems and processes for. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is one of those areas that is so simple to follow a process to do.
Mm-hmm.
The real magic in this is having a consistent company message, and the
Yeah,
people on the phones are repeating that message. And
absolutely.
your prioritizing system is like awesome.
Mm.
And a lot of people could learn a lot from simplifying what are we actually trying to find out, because
Yeah.
all the conversations I have in like doing this ticket administration, they jump straight to, well, we need to grab error messages, we need to grab this. Does it actually save text time? Like,
Yeah.
really? Like, does it set the job up for success? Most of the time, I find it doesn't. I don't know
No,
about you,
because
but
the text just go back and ask exactly the same questions again and have a look at the log. I mean, the best case scenario is you give them a log, the tech looks at the log and goes, oh, that's a blah, 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 or an ABC or an XYZ. Sweet. That's awesome. But those ones that we can't do that with, the text go back and ask exactly the same questions. Don't get me wrong, though. I have to say, it's not a bad thing to have that information. Absolutely.
no.
Again, this comes back down to, I suppose this is the biggest thing that I see is, are you running a help desk or are you running a service desk? Okay, because they are two very different things. And again, people, I tend to see MSPs not understanding that. Yeah. What does a help desk do? Well, a help desk is literally bag and tag. That's what they do. They may have a fix it in 15 mentality, right? James, you and I have spoken about this before, right? Can I fix it in 15 minutes? If I can, sweet. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to close the ticket and I'm going to move on to the next thing. If it's not a help desk, it tends to move into the service desk category, which is where you answer the phone or create the ticket, get the ticket, and then fix the ticket. They're two different things. So when you have a triage option working in a help desk, those tickets actually go through quite quickly. Whereas if you have it on a service desk, not so much. There are a couple of things that you can do around service desks is dedicate a resource to triage. So a couple of days a week, whatever it's going to be, however big your team might be, but get them to spend days. So the first priority of that resource is to actually look at the tickets coming in and triage them. If they've done all of that, sweet, go back and solve tickets. But then, as soon as the new ticket comes in, they go back, they triage it, come back into the work. It gets you into that mentality of going, that's not as urgent as these tickets. That's not as urgent as these tickets. So, and we kind of have a solve for that inside our software, inside the Tribu software, for the tech side of things. So when the tech wants to know what's going on, they use a command called what's next. And it actually just brings them up the next 2 tickets that they're working on. But you can't do that unless you have a good triage process. So our triage process goes, when it comes in, alerts you to say there's a new ticket, and then you go through the triage process inside the software, which then can help the tech moving forward. But again, it's just understanding about the information that's coming in, making sure the priority is correct, categorizing those tickets as well, and then pushing that onto the text so the text can then make the decisions from there.
And your point is a good one around the getting the information in the system. There's things you got to take into account. We sort of, a lot of this that we've been talking about, it's just been coming through phone, tech answering the phone. We can get it through email, we can get it verbally, we can get it on site, we can get it on through a client portal. So many different ways that it can come through. So how they're handled and it's structured should follow the same methodology, but the way that it actually happens will be different. And what you're saying about assigning the resource is extremely important. Like if we don't make someone responsible for something, then no one's going to be responsible for it. And that, how many times have you sat in a service department where there's no assigned person, and to answer the phones, and then the phones just keep ringing and ringing because no one wants to answer the phone, and no one's been told, well, you're the person that answers the phone first.
Yeah, I mean, the best one I was saying is I was in one of the MSPs I was working with had a goldfish bowl for a service desk, so everybody could see what was going on. They could see all the screens, and the CEO walked past and seen in the new ticket screen there was a big red one, which meant it had been sitting there for more than an hour, and he just shouted out, "Why is there a call been sat there for more than an hour? What's going on?" That got done there and then. And then from there, the processes that we put in place, we're in the process of putting that sort of stuff in place. But from there, that screen never went back to a one. I don't think it's ever gone back to a one. I haven't been told it's gone back to a one yet. But yeah, it's the perception, right? It's being able to, especially if you've got those big desks that have, you know, customers walking past, and you're going, "Oh yeah, my service desk is, you know, can get on top of things real quick." Okay, cool. Let's see how you get on top of them, because I can guarantee you, your customers will be testing your service desk out 100%. MSPs are not, I mean, as we said at the start, you can go out and you can find an MSP wherever the MSP wants to be found, right? There's lots of you guys out there. There's lots of you guys doing the work. The big thing is the customer interactions and the customer relationships. That's why customers stay with you. And it's through good service delivery and that side of things. That's how we actually build those relationships and keep those customers on side.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's where I go back to the whole, again, I'm going back to the phone thing, because nothing's more pressing than a phone call in. Is by jumping to fix the issue, we're ignoring all the client relationship stuff that we're doing. We're not thinking, even a simple thing like a password reset. I'm going to go a bit old school, and it might take you 5 minutes to go into the system. We've got this tendency to hold people on the phone, so we're trying to be helpful. Isn't it more helpful to actually log the ticket and go, "Yep, we've got it. We've got someone that will deal with that, and they'll call you back as soon as it's been reset, and we'll test and make sure it's okay." Is that not better than sitting them on the phone for 5 minutes waiting for you to stuff around? It's simple things like that we think that we need to have them on the phone, sitting there just because they rang in, and it comes down to that. We're technology focused first. We're not people focused first. Like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But it's also a lot to do with that inbuilt value that we think we're providing. That we think it's that response time. We're actually, if we're educating our clients, we're giving them a clear, repeatable system that's going on and that they can trust.
Yeah.
That's what they value. It's not
it's
that
all
they
about consistency. Yeah.
It is. They really just want someone that they're ringing up and being able to say, "I've got this issue," and handle it. And what I'm seeing a lot is we're trying to, as an industry, we're trying to limit the amount of phone calls that come in. And it's not for, like, there are valid reasons why we want to reduce the phone calls. We all know that it makes our service more efficient. We can triage better, all that kind of thing. But most MSPs are doing it because they don't actually want to talk to the clients on the phone. They don't actually understand their client base. I was fortunate enough when the MSP I worked for, we were hospitality based. So the whole push people to email all the time isn't appropriate. We've got people out on the floor with customers and issues. They need to be able to just ring up and say, "Hey, I've got this issue. Can you sort it out?"
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine if you've got this triage system that's actually just logging the ticket and someone's going to deal with it. But it relies on that person answering the phone to have that messaging, like what you're talking about with the triaging, asking the right questions. And once we've decided the priorities, like actually setting the expectation with the client. I'm curious from your experience how well you see most people are doing that expectation setting around priorities.
It's an interesting one because we've got another session on this coming up about service level agreements. And it's kind of one of the things that we see a lot of people say, "Yeah, my service level agreements are doing this," but or my service level agreements are this or that, and we do this and we do that. And you're like, well, actually, can you really say that? So you turn around to me and say, what have I seen? I've seen, you know, how well are they getting back to their partners or their customers? Sometimes you can argue actually not that well, unless you've got the right processes set up behind that. You know, it's great. I love the interaction on the phone, right? I'm kind of old school, right? I came from a service desk where people would ring up rather than phone. That was my first job was actually for Hayes modems, answering the tech support line for them, right? So, you know, the first thing they would do is phone up and ask and talk to you about that. Now, the really cool thing with that, and the reason I'm going back to that is back in the days of modems, most people out there would know that to actually try and fix the problem, I would have to guide them through. Then I'd have to get them to put the phone down and test it. And then they could email me and tell me everything's good. So that was quite eye-opening for me because I see that moving on now. And it's actually, as you quite rightly say, it's more likely people are going to email in. The way I've looked at things and actually getting how, you know, how well people, I suppose, categorize or put the type of ticket on, whether it's a change, whether it's a service request, or whether it's an incident. The two ways that biggest tips I can give is the language that they're using on the phone. If they use, I can't do this, this is broken, yeah, those statements, 99% of the time, they're incidents. If they're questions, can you reset my password? Can you set up my printer? Can I have a new user set up? All those questions are all they're all service requests. That there, if you can just get those two there, you will have a much better understanding of your priorities just from listening to that language just on the phone calls, because service requests you can get away with leaving for a little bit longer. Incidents, not so much, because they need to be fixed now. And I suppose that out of the training that I've done and the service desks I've worked on and worked with, how well they're doing always falls back to those two, that sort of information. Is it a service request or is it an incident? That way you know where you need to go and what you need to do to actually to move forward with it. Once that's in the account, you know, once that's being done inside the desk itself, absolutely perfect, absolutely awesome, because there's that understanding there now of actually an SR can wait a little bit longer, an incident needs to be dealt with now.
Observing the client's language is very important, and I think what we normally do is it goes back to that resourcing, because we just typically have anyone and everyone answering the calls. We don't have a process. We always get caught up in the urgency, and we're asking the wrong questions. We highlighted some that could be done better, but there's a tendency, because we're rushing as well. The main question we always ask is, how urgent is it? And we all know the answer. No one's ever going to say
yesterday. Yeah. Yeah.
So what I found, and I'm non-technical, so what I found when I had to do some triaging, pick up the phones because it was busy or whatever, I learned to start at treating it as urgent. And once I got a bit more comfortable, basically what I started with was asking what the issue is, trying to pick up the language like you're talking about. Is it like actually an incident? Is it a service request? But I treat it as an emergency, and I go, first question after asking that is, I would start and just go, I've got a stupid question to ask you. I just want to confirm that this isn't impacting the whole business and you can't trade. Because now you're framing it. It's only a yes or no question, basically. It's like, oh, okay. No, my printer's just not working. Okay, so it's not an emergency. Let's take that away. And just de-escalate the question. So I'd ask the next one is, okay, so you can't print. Does that mean you can't serve clients and you're not able to make money? Oh, no, I just can't print, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so is that for a deadline for like a board meeting or something important, or is it just like, start with that, yes or no? No? Okay, so it sounds like it's a real inconvenience. Are you able to print on another printer? Yes, no? then you know your priority level straight there. And
Yeah.
the client already knows straight away, oh, actually, this isn't that bad. And you can turn around and go, well, this is our normal turnaround
Yeah.
time. When you know your flows, then it's very easy to say, well, actually, that will be in 4. We usually get to this sort of priority in 4 or 8 hours, but we're setting the scene. And you'll find most clients at that point, they've been heard, they know that you're going to deal with it, and they're happy because they have an expectation. They're just ringing up to go, when can I get this fixed and what
Yeah.
is it?
Yep.
It's not
Yeah.
usually an argument or anything. There's always going to
No.
be those 5% of clients that will argue anyway,
Yeah.
and that's a different issue. But most clients are just looking for that stability.
They're just, for want of a better phrase, they just want you to hear their problem and know that something's being done about it. That's literally what it comes down to. How you frame that afterwards, it's entirely up to you. But certainly from a triage point of view, getting that information out there or getting that information from them is going to be amazing. And that's what's going to set you up. It's interesting, as I said, looking at the language and stuff. So right now we're actually training our AI to read what the customer has put into the ticket, right? And this sounds a bit Skynetty, but we're actually working on something called sentiment. So it potentially could read what's going on and then put weight behind that as well. How accurate that could be, I'm not sure, but it's never going to be as accurate as a human, don't get me wrong, but it'll certainly give a decent amount of accuracy. We're already categorizing tickets like issues and sub-issues. That's all cool. But yeah, being able to add that extra bit on top of that. So the systems and the automation can only do so much at the moment. But as we start to move forward, things will obviously ramp up. But it's still down to, especially those phone calls, if you're getting them in, having those conversations and just going, like you said, asking those 3 questions, whether you start the escalation and bring it down or just go, who's affected, what's affected, is it costing money? That's the kind of area that we're in. And then push them through that way. Yeah, I used to have a spreadsheet that calculated it all out for me, believe it or not. So it was kind of strange. It was kind of strange. I just like click on the spreadsheet and then it was a strange one. But it worked quite well because then I could like with change requests, I could actually go, okay, this is a priority 1 change. I need sign off from all of these different people. But change requests and change management is a whole other ball game. Let's just concentrate on issues and issues and service requests just at this precise minute in time. Yeah.
I think what I'd say too is a person's always going to be better, but it's a well-trained person. This is what we're really bad at, is creating clarity and a process to this. And this is why we're having the conversations we're having and trying to share all our wisdom and through our white hair and less hair that we've gone through of going through the battle scars of doing all of this.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it starts with having the clear process and having things well defined. If you don't have ticket categories, if you can't categorize in your PSA whether it's an incident or a service request to start with, then you know there's an area to work on. If you don't have a clear priority system, even ignoring SLAs of just being able to actually market priority and it means something, and what types of jobs fall into that. Without that, it's very difficult. It'll always go back to each individual's skills and knowledge that will just make some decisions, and they'll be right or wrong. And unfortunately, when there's not clarity, most of the time it'll be wrong. Because they don't know. And it's not their fault. So creating that structure and that process to set the ticket flow up is extremely critical.
And that's it. The tools are there to help you, and we can certainly prompt you with the right questions. So if we take logging a ticket from a telephone call inside Teams via Tribu, it's going to ask you the right questions. It's going to ask you what's the priority, what's the description, all that sort of stuff. It's not going to give you all of the rubbish that you may not necessarily need in the background for a ticket. Let the PSA do that in the background. What we want to do is we were looking at the tech and going, okay, here's a new ticket window. What do we need? We only need this, 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 and this. Cool. nice and easy. Put all the information in, the way you go from there. So that's kind of that's the reasoning behind why we're doing what we're doing. Is you're quite right. Simplify it, make it nice and easy. Get the information, put the information into the ticket, and away you go from there. And just help set that up for that good triage and that better handling of the tickets moving forward. Yeah.
Set it up for success.
Absolutely.
If you don't do triage right, the rest of the processes will fall down. You won't be able to.
Yeah.
You won't be able to schedule it out and allocate it to the right person. The techs won't know what they're doing. We won't know if a ticket's actually closed. We will have all our invoicing issues when we come to invoice. We'll have all those, like you mentioned, the invoice queries. It just builds and builds, and it purely comes down to this really simple front end process of getting triage right.
And let's be honest, it's something we should be doing anyway, and it's just asking questions and getting the information. It's literally all it comes down to. You know, whether that's via the phone, whether that's via emails, doesn't matter. Just making sure the information's in there, and as you said, setting up for success, but also setting the MSP up for success as well, because they can start to prioritize tickets and go, well, that can wait for 5 minutes. I've got to do this one, and then this one.
And that provides better client services. At the end of the day, that's what we're really trying to do. That's what most MSPs are really focused on, is providing good client services. And we neglect the internal service operations because of that. Yeah. And we end up giving really bad client service. Where if we focus on ourselves for a bit longer, and this doesn't mean that we're saying, oh, clients don't know what they're doing and get really negative. Actually, if we focus on the positivity of us developing good processes and procedures and actually working to those standards and educating clients are going to be way better off. Because it's not just going to be in how we handle tickets day to day. When we get this sort of service flow right from the triage process, we start to get less noise in itself. If we're training clients that, yes, we can take a ticket, it's set up for success, we're able to dispatch it out, we're able to do it in one touch. We get less phone calls. We're not having people jumping the queue trying to get their tickets done faster, because that's what we've trained them to do. Yeah. And then we start to find that we've got more time during the day to start stepping up to those more exciting things like automating resolutions, automating new users, like all of that type of stuff, doing more technical documentation. And it builds and builds and builds, and that's how you start propelling yourself forward more. But it doesn't. You're not able to do that if all you're doing is jumping at the phone, jumping straight into tickets.
Yeah, but working smarter, not harder, right? That's the whole reason for us doing this sort of stuff. So James, look, awesome to catch up with you again, mate. I'm not sure if we're going to get one done before Christmas, but we'll see where we go from there. It's always good to have a yarn with you, especially when and get out the stuff that's in our heads and the stuff that's making the beards grey and the hair fall out and all that sort of stuff. So guys, thank you very much for your time. Awesome having this conversation. Feel free to flick me a message. Email us at dave@tribu.ai, or head across to tribu.ai and have a look at our website there. And I'm sure, James, you can offer the same the same detail, I suppose.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me again. Hopefully there's been some good information that you can take away. And just my general advice, as always, is pick one thing at a time. Don't try and solve all the world's problems in one go. Create a plan, execute it in small chunks. Absolutely. And if you want to drop me a line, it's just james@sealevelops.com, and that's C with SEA, sea level, or you can go to sealevelops.com and have a look at the website of what we're doing. Hopefully you've learned something, you can go implement it and get better results in the business.
Go from there. James, thank you very much, mate. It's been a pleasure as always. I can't remember what our next session is going to be. I was on service level agreements or something like that.
I think so.
It'd be a meaty one to get into. Cool. All right, guys. Thank you very much. See you later.
Thanks, Dave. See you, everyone.